Welcome to Things I Can't Say, the podcast for the things parents whisper, not post. I'm Annie, a parent who's walked through the quiet, lonely hallways of raising a child with traits that don't fit neatly into any of the parenting books, or on anyone's social media feed either. Each week we'll open the door to stories that rarely get told out loud. I'll start with mine, and then you'll hear from other parents, mental health professionals, and people who know what it means to live in the gray instead of the black and white. This is a place where shame loses its power, where complexity isn't feared but explored, and where love doesn't have to be easy in order to be real. If you've ever felt like no one else could possibly understand, you're not alone here. This is Things I Can't Say, and I am so glad you're here. Welcome back, and welcome to my inside voice. These are the things that I think to myself very, very often, but they're hard for me to put into words, so I don't talk about them very often because I don't know how to explain them to people in a way that is going to make sense to those who have not lived it. And I don't want it to come across wrong. I don't want people to hear me say something that I am not saying. We know that children who have been exposed to substances in utero, which is considered a disability in Oregon, I don't know about other states or worldwide, that is just the Oregon experience. Children who've been exposed to trauma, their brains are rewired. Their brains function differently based on those early childhood experiences they had no control over. So the executive functioning is often more difficult. Decision making is harder. The behaviors are harder. Life is harder for these kids who've experienced these early childhood things. We know this. It's scientifically proven. If we have a seesaw, this is on one side of that seesaw. This balanced piece of life is harder for these kids. Making the right choice is harder. Behavior is harder. Everything is harder because of something they had no control over. On the other side of that is accountability, is responsibility for your own choices, is good decisions and good behavior and treating other people well, and all of those pieces that we want every child to have. We want kids to own their choices and take accountability for what they do and face the consequences for their decisions and all of those pieces. In the middle of this seesaw that is never in balance when you are raising a child with severe trauma is this parent who is trying to figure out how to parent with compassion, being the soft place to land, loving their child, just continuously, deeply, passionately loving and advocating for their child, while also holding their child accountable when, and here's the part that gets controversial for people, I don't know if my child can be 100% accountable for their choices. Because I don't know if my child is 100% in control of their choices. I don't know if my child can make better choices, which is very hard for me to say out loud. I don't know if I believe it, and I don't know if other people believe it, and I don't know if it's excuse making on my part, so I question it all the time. And I also think it constantly. I don't know if my child can do better. And if my child cannot do better, then what is in place to help? How do we help the people who cannot be accountable for their actions because their brain function does not allow them to be? And that doesn't necessarily show from the outside. That doesn't necessarily, you don't see that. These kids look quote unquote normal. They look typical. They can interact in ways that you wouldn't know, that their brain is so misfired, miswired, whatever you want to say, that making those decisions for them, and brief intermission. I'm just going to keep it real. because that's how I want this to be. I don't know what I was just even saying. I got a call from school from our 12-year-old daughter that she needed me to come there and give her a hug. This is part of what we're dealing with. It ties together with what I was saying at the beginning. We don't just have one child who has struggled with severe trauma. We also have our 12-year-old dealing with the same. I think she has probably completed about 50% of her school days. Most of her days at school are incredibly difficult. And we are trying to figure out that same balance because I can see how much she is struggling. And it's not the same struggles. Her struggles are very, very different from her brother. But it's hard when I can see that other people don't fully understand why she's struggling. We had someone who works with her at school say that they wished she could ask for help when she needs it, and they wish that she could begin to understand that her words impact other people. Those general things are true. I wish those things as well. And also, she completely understands those things. She understands them when she is regulated. It is when she is dysregulated that there is no ability to comprehend anything logical at all in very extreme ways. And I'm trying to protect her privacy and the stuff she's dealing with, so I'm dancing around some of what I'm saying, but it is a big, big struggle every day. She is getting in trouble regularly. Friendships are hard. All relationships are hard. The reactivity to other people when they say something to her that she doesn't like, and it activates that part of her brain, coming back down from that is really, really difficult. And we can do it at home because there's less people around, I think, and we've just figured out ways to do it. But at school, it doesn't work very well. Today's one of the first days she did not ask to come home. Instead, she handled it in a way that we've been working on, which is that I will come and give her a hug, or we will go for a walk, or we will take a break from school, but not come home. So we'll call this a success today. But when I try to talk to people about the trauma impact on her behavior, I fear that what people hear from me is an excuse. And I think she may hear that sometimes as well. I think our son also heard that in the things that I said, that it sounds like an excuse. If I say that the things that happened to you when you were younger changed how your brain works, and it makes it harder for you, then that can come across as you have an excuse to behave the way that you behave, and that you don't have to be held accountable for the way you are behaving, which is not what I am saying. I fully believe that needs to be accountability, responsibility for the behaviors that our kids have. There needs to be consequences for what our kids do. That they can't just freely hurt other people, say rude things, be mean with no consequences. And also, those consequences have to make sense for them. The consequences have to be useful. They have to be helpful. If I just give a consequence when I know that those consequences are not going to help make change, then that's pointless. If I am just punishing to punish, if I'm just punishing because I'm mad, I'm not making any change, and that is not the goal. It is not as simple as just saying, don't do that, or you need to change your behavior, or you can't do that again. It's not that simple. I know without a shadow of a doubt that our daughter does not want to behave the way she does at times. that she does not want to come across as unkind, that she does not want to say the things that she does. She's a very compassionate, empathetic human and does not want to act how she does. And then that dysregulation happens and everything changes. It's all thrown out the window at that point. When she's regulated again, she fully understands what she did and how it happened and her responsibility in it. But she cannot see that in the moment. I don't have the magic answer as a parent as to how you change that. And I don't know sometimes if you can. Someone recently told me that they heard our son was doing really, really well. He told them that. He told them he was doing great. He's happy. His mental health is good. He was looking at a placement where he could live, which I'm assuming would be a group home again. I heard all of that, and I have no factual reason as to why I would believe otherwise, except I don't believe it. Because we've lived this for so long, and we've tried so many different ways of changing, correcting, managing the behavior concerns, and we have not been able to change it. So what would have changed now without any supervision, any behavior management, anything? What would have changed the behavior now? And then yesterday, I'm scrolling social media and our local county sheriff's office posts their recent calls. And they're non-specific. They don't use ages or names or addresses, any of that. They just give a list of the idea, the concept of the calls they went on. And they're delayed by a couple of weeks. And they posted one where they went out to a group home in a neighboring town where the client living there ran away. And I was like, well, that happens quite often. And then the next day, they went back to that group home because the client returned and had a massive seizure, and they called police and ambulance for that. And I was like, that's our son. Either there's a clone of our son somewhere, or that's where our son is currently living, is in a group home in a neighboring town. That would be a disability group home if he is there. And if he's in a disability group home, he would run away because that is just what he would do. And he would have a seizure when he returned. Like, that all makes sense to me. That all makes sense. Is it him? I have no idea. I have no way of knowing that. But my brain says, sure is, because I can't comprehend different behavior. We have, with both kids, celebrated every small win you can imagine, because that's what you do when you're working with kids who struggle so much with some of the most basic skills. You celebrate them remembering the simplest executive functioning pieces. I just can't fathom that all of a sudden we're doing well. I want to believe that, though, because I want to believe that someday our daughter will just magically also be all better. And I don't know. I don't know if this is going to get better, because I don't know if it can. And that drives me crazy when I think about it. Because from the outside, these kids look fine. From the outside, they're beautiful children who move, walk, write, like they look fine. They're functioning physically fine. They talk fine. They seem fine. People think that they're fine. And because they seem fine, they are expected to behave like they're fine. Except they're not. They're not fine. What is happening inside of their brain requires so much support to manage. So much support. And people don't get that. There's an expectation that they'll just be able to manage friendships and manage communication in the hallways at school and manage boyfriend-girlfriend relationships and manage, but that's not true. Their brains don't react that way. It doesn't look the same, but they're considered fine because they look fine. And as a parent, I feel like the crazy one because I don't know how to tell you that, no, I'm not grounding them from their phone for 3 weeks because I don't think that's going to change the behavior. And I'm not going to give a consequence that is not related to the behavior. I don't believe in punishing something when there is not an ability to do better. So how do we figure out how to help them do better? That's what I need to know. Tell me how to help my child do better. There has to be answers. There has to be help. There has to be systems, and I just don't know what it is. And I'm afraid that every time I talk about this, what people will hear is me making excuses. Somehow saying that what they do is okay. It is not. The poor behavior is not okay. Harming other people is never, ever okay. And if we would like it to be different, then we need to come around them as a community and help them do it differently, not just expect the water to turn into wine all by itself. That's not how it's going to work. I have big feelings around this because I have struggled with it internally so often for so long. Every IEP meeting, every call from school, every conversation with teachers, I sit in this place of, I hear what you're saying. I know that you want better from my kids, and I am 1000% on your side, and I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to help you because I am not at school. I am not there when they are dysregulated. When my daughter is regulated, she fully understands what the problem is. She fully understands that what she said or did is wrong. She regrets it. She doesn't like herself for doing it. We get it. It is when she is dysregulated and needs help, but I'm not there to help her. So I don't know what to say. That is not me excusing the behavior. I don't know. It is such a messy place to have kids that I, in my mind, qualify as disabled, but other people don't see them as disabled. Does that even make sense? And I'm not saying that. I hope I'm not being like politically wrong in saying that. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but my children have a disability when it comes to their ability to function that the world can't see. And that puts them at a disadvantage. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't have an answer. I don't think the world has an answer. I don't think there's any place that has an answer. And that really stinks. Because while we don't have an answer for it, we just kind of sit and spin in the same spot. I don't know. Until then, I'm going to get phone calls from school every day, trying to figure out how we manage this behavior. But I will continue to be her safe space. I will show up every single time she wants me, and even when she doesn't. Until next time, maybe not interrupted in the middle of the recording next time, but I highly doubt that. Take care of you. Thanks for being here, listening, feeling, and sitting with the hard stuff. If you've ever whispered a story like mine, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave me a message at mombehindthescenes.com because every story told gives someone else permission to share theirs. This is Things I Can't Say, the podcast for things you whisper, not post. Until next time, take care of yourself.